Hello, hello, and welcome here to a lovely night of some more Esports U action. I'm very excited to be here as we are slipping in for the start of the SSBU action. Let's get our rumble on. My name is Orbital. With me is Psyduck here. Psyduck, how you doing today?
Doing great, Orbital. Super excited for this matchup we've got coming up here. Most likely, we're going to be looking at the Lucario versus the Byleth. Pretty even matchup. Honestly, super thrilled to see an even matchup to start this out with. It's typically not super great to see just the absolute landslide matchups, where it's just one person clawing, just trying to get their way back up. So, really looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be good. As of course, to kick things off, as you said, it is gonna be the Lucario versus Byleth, but it is gonna be Mott Community College, the player being Stefan H or Azure versus Fort Scott Community College, and that'll be Zach L or Tofu, bringing up some exciting action here. Both of those, I believe, are from Division 3 here, and they are challenging each other at a 3-0 and a 3-1 record. As we are into the latter stages of the regular season, a lot of these matchups do mean quite a bit as well. These are starting to be set up for placements, and with each group hosting only about 8 to 9 players, it's very important that you start bringing yourself up to the top of the tables, or else there's a possibility that you start kind of sliding down towards that latter half of the standings.
It's definitely not a position anyone wants to be in. This is going to be a very close game. I'm sure we're about to get into it right here. Let's see what the stage selection is going to be.
Ooh. It's going to hopefully be pretty fun. And of course, we did get information before Azir is running the Byleth, but has a few other pockets in there. Of course, for the side of Tofu or Zach, it is only going to be that Lucario coming out here, and that will be it. So we'll see how it matches up here on Pokemon Stadium.
Yeah, it looks like we got PS2 getting locked in here. Lucario going for cannon pick on the Pokemon Stadium here into the Byleth. So far, we've got a little bit of boxing going on in neutral here. Lucario fishing for those down airs, trying to get some early shield pressure on.
It's an attempt, but of course, trying to deal with a little bit of the range and a little bit of those little simple attacks coming out, as Azir is going to slap in a few more as well. So far, damage racking up on Tofu's side. It's having a little bit of an issue, and at the neutral start again, neither one really going that aggressive, and even here Azir allowing the get up, saying, okay, let's get back to that neutral game. Let's keep fighting it out.
He does answer back there with that quick up special. He's going to try to get an up air string started here. But like you said before, the Lucario is getting a little bit of damage, but of all characters in the game to get damage racked up this early, you're going to want it to be Lucario. Lucario has that aura mechanic, and that stacks as well with Smash Ultimate's rage mechanic. So if you can't take an early stock off of Lucario and you let him get into those 100, low 100, especially if you get him into the mid 100 percentages, you're going to start dying around 40, 50 if you're not careful.
Such a little painful setup there if you're, like you said, not careful. And so far it has been kind of those leaps for the adjustments. And now at 132, the tables have definitely turned. Great charge blast. It is going to be Tofu with that RS Sphere, taking it home in the first stock. Now looking for a few more on this 81% stock. For a bit more, but Tofu putting themselves up into that edge, is immediately going to come back with a nice 41% combo.
41% extra credit for Lucario, who's at less than 100%, stock number 1. That's a position every Lucario main wants to be in. And our resident Lucario main is really making a case for himself here.
So far, it's just been very standard play. I mean, in the neutrals, in the tag game, it's actually been, I want to say, Azir holding it down, right? It's been Azir with these small tags. That's where we see the damage jump up, but the combinations haven't really been landing, and that allows Tofu to punish pretty much every single time. And you can see it here, the damage starting to get up and above what you would like. Again, Azir sitting at that point where you're looking at another stock. Tofu might be able to take a 2-for-1 or a little bit further. Full charge up and immediately swing to the back. Tofu is not going to enjoy that one. Great roll out of the down smash.
The Azure's trying to rely on these stray hits, and against a character like Lucario, a character who's so explosive, just like that with the Force Palm, gonna take it 126%, pretty much maximum aura at this point, getting pretty close to maximum rage. going to be doing a ton of damage, and Azure has to close this stock out.
And at this point, it's even scarier because even if you do close out the stock, you're sitting at 62%. Nice little up tilt. Try your best, but again, it's telling. Zach has played this so well throughout the entirety. Reads a jump and says, here, eat this fully charged, and then the force spawn to finish it off. It's going to be the 3-0. Well played by Zach here in round number 1.
Now, I think we're probably going to see a character switch if I had to guess. If I'm Azure here, I think I'm bringing in the Samus, personally. I think Samus is going to be the character in their pool that can sort of trade off with those projectiles, a little floatier, a little easier to dodge the aura spheres, and just maybe take advantage of Lucario off stage a little bit. His offstage game isn't terrible. It's by no means the worst in the game, but it is exploitable, and I feel a move like maybe back air, neutral air from Samus can probably take some early stocks in a way that I don't think Byleth can.
It is the opportunity for them, right? And again, after that 3-0 shelling, and that's what we have to call it. Tofu read it like a book, was able to play it through. We're looking for that round or the stock conversion, right? I think it all starts there. When you're sitting and when you're watching a Lucario sit at 130, 140, yes, it's difficult, but you gotta close out that stock. And as you said, utilizing that poke, utilizing that long range firing ability. Where's the finisher for the Samus? I mean, where do you close it out? Because we know that Azir can rack up the damage. We know that the poke war going works well for this player. But how do you close it out if you do happen to switch to the Samus?
If you switch to the Samus, like I was saying, I think offstage game is going to be key. Azure was doing all right with some combos. I think there is definitely potential. I can tell with the tech skill that they were employing that they have the hands to make combos. The trick with Byleth is that she's kind of slow compared to most other characters. And I think that Samus is going to give them the speed that they need in order to close out those stocks in a way that they couldn't with Byleth. You're going to have to try and get something going when Lucario uses that extreme speed on stage, like Tofu did a couple of times. You can use that tether grab, get him off stage, and just make sure he doesn't have his footing. Make sure he can't charge that aura sphere the way that he wants to, and do your best to close those out as early as you can.
And I have to give huge credit to Tofu, right? On Pokemon Stadium, it was, I understand that's probably one of the standards, and we're going back to Byleth. So, no character change here. It is going to be the same fighter for Azir. And Tofu is, of course, sticking with the Lucario. The question, of course, do we go right back to the same stage? Because that seemed to be it. Nope, we're going to the Villagers. It's going to be Animal Crossing, bringing us to stage number 2.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have Smashville, which I'm assuming was the Byleth's counter pick here. Not 100% sure what the thought process is. I don't think this stage is particularly favorable one way or the other. I just think this matchup is so close. But ultimately, Byleth is going to have to start using some of these heavier hitboxes. Maybe they're a little easier to read, but you're going to have to start going for some reads because you just can't outbox Lucario with Byleth. You're just too slow.
And Tofu already being a lot more aggressive, and this is what I really like in best of 5 scenarios. You get to see kind of the stylistic changes that the players employ, right? Game 1, Tofu was definitely scouting out in the early stages, was taking things a little bit slower, looking for those full charges on the aura seal. Now going a little bit more aggressive, going a little bit closer in, realizing where they can punish against Azir, and give props already at 118 versus a 55%. Tofu feeling real good about this first stock.
The Tofu is definitely turning up the heat here, which is saying something coming off of a 3-0. That extreme speed is starting to do quite a bit of damage, only at 64%. That's not a lot of aura. It's more of the Byleth percentage at the moment here, but Lucario getting a lot more aggressive, and that's a playstyle switch that I think is really going to work out for Tofu, because Azure already didn't have an answer, so it's going to be difficult to adjust when the heat's getting turned up that quickly.
Tried your best to adjust to one style, and all of a sudden the player brings out another. You're like, this is not what I played against before, and that's the adjustments that you have to make on the fly. Tofu, again, these edge guards are not as strong as normal, but you don't have to worry about that, right? Because you have the extreme speed. Tofu goes for the headbutt, and Azir falls flat for stock 1.
Azure's going to fall first once again. Azure's still actually just looking for a stock in general. Didn't take one the first game. But Tofu still, I think, has to be a little worried. I was just about to say, has to be worried about the edge guarding from Violet. That down smash does reach below ledge. Very, very large hitbox. A ton of damage to boot.
Great clearance, and now you do set it back to a standard setup. The neutral is going to be still swinging out, but we know Tofu in some of these combo games can rack up the damage. It is broken by Azir though, so there's going to be a chance to follow through, and this time it is Tofu on the lower end at 82. Again, great hit percentage, but Azir does have to worry about those RSCs. Again, jumping into some of those connections is not what you want to have happen.
I think Tofu is playing the read game much better than Azure is at the moment. It seems like he's getting those jump reads, getting those ledge get-up reads. It just feels like those little bits. Yeah, just like I was saying, the Aura Sphere catches the jump off of ledge, and that's going to secure stock number 2 for Tofu.
You know when martial artists, like, they close their eyes and stuff, and it's like, oh, I can read the opponent. I know what they're going to do next. This is one of those moments. It's like one of those action movies. It's Tofu realizing what is going on. Even with those projectiles, it's again going to be an opportunity as they're setting up as best as possible. But Tofu with 96, now sitting at 106, is going to be trading damage back. And with an extra stock in the back pocket, you are happily going to hold it off. But Azir says no more. Extra stock, 45%. The final stock is all that remains here in Game 2.
You really got to keep an eye out for the smash attacks from Violet, especially if you are on the outskirts. Kind of a strange character, Violet. Some of their moves don't have those the tipper mechanics like Marth does, but some of them do, the forward smash being one of them. So right at the end of that spear does a lot of extra damage. And you saw just how much extra damage it does on that last kill. Yeah, see, look at that. On those aerials, whenever you get hit with the tip, you get like an extra, you know, what, 10%, I think? 10%, I want to say?
It's a nice little damage spike, and so far I am actually liking what I'm seeing out of Azir. So far actually decide to swap up to a very neutral tilt to standard, but that is going to be a close finisher. Great DI out. Azir able to block most of that off, and hopefully going to come back, both sitting well above 110, but the Force Palm is going to take it. However, a much closer game than game number 1.
See, and Tofu is starting to pick up on these ledge patterns. The last 3 times that Azure has been on the ledge, he's elected to jump. Right before that last one, read it with the Aura Sphere, nearly got the kill, save for that good DI. Soon as he gets back on ledge, jumps once again. That time, you know, Tofu didn't go for the jump read, but I think Tofu is the kind of player that is going to start picking up on those reads more regularly. And if I'm Azure, I've got to start paying attention to that now, because if that pattern gets picked up, as anyone in the FGC will tell you, download complete, not a place you want to be. You know, not a place you want to be at all.
It's a scary spot, but for the other side, we're taking a look at Azir and what they need to do. There have been some small shining moments, especially in that game number 2, taking 2 stocks, dropping it down to a 1-1. It was only 45% difference at the beginning, and then at the end, it was I think a 5 to 10% difference. So much better than game number 1, and that was because of a playstyle shift. I feel there was a very, very telling moment about, I want to say, 3 to 4 minutes into the round. It seemed the attack pattern out of the Byleth was swapped up, and maybe there was a small key to success in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Byleth was playing a little more conservatively. Admittedly, I think you kind of have to with the kind of aggression that the Lucario was putting up. But I noticed a little more use of the neutral B that was giving him a little bit of space, just trying to keep the Lucario on the back foot. And I think for the first maybe 65% of that set, doing a pretty good job of that for the most part. We saw just back and forth stocks. He got a little bit of extra credit, but then you kind of earn it back, and it was all right. It was starting to even out. But at the end of the day, I think the reads that Tofu was making on the ledge, the reads that they were making with the Aura Spheres, and then, of course, finishing it with that Force Palm was just too much. And we are going to get a switch to Samus from Azure. How do you think that's going to change this matchup up?
Ooh, going back to what you said, I mean, we were curious if we were going to see, you know, all that in game number 2. Now in game number 3, I am curious if that longer range playstyle will work. However, a lot more pressure on Azir, right? This is that final game that you have, And going to Battlefield, they are going to try and prep appropriately, but you immediately go for a close range combat because Tofu doesn't want to allow that charge up to happen either. This is going to be a much carrier matchup, but so far Azir still setting up with that early percentage.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more projectiles just in general from both of these characters. Samus, of course, ever since, I think, just Smash 64, kind of a notorious, as some call, Spamus. Have a lot of projectiles at her disposal, and if used properly, I mean, she's just so annoying to deal with. But Lucario, with that Aura Sphere, even though it's only that one projectile, it's a very, very strong projectile.
It is, and even with the extreme speed, I have to also give props. Tofu really utilizing that get back mechanic and ensuring that you at least try and hit some damage, and it hasn't been punished so far. Out of all the moves that Tofu has thrown down, Azir has yet to actually show some form of counter to the extreme speed. I understand it's difficult, but I mean, you know where Tofu is going to go, I think, most times with it.
Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed, but Azure once again jumped off ledge for the last... Oh, there it is. Okay, good. Finally switches up the ledge game a little bit. I was getting a little nervous that it's just getting into that jump off of ledge pattern. Oh, there it is once again. But the extreme speed, like you said, is not getting punished the way that I think it really needs to. Which is saying something because that move is kind of, at least if you don't play Lucario, a little unwieldy. And speaking of unwieldy, the amount of damage that comes from a Force Bomb with that much rage, I mean, that is just... kills so early. It's ridiculous.
It does. And not just that at this point, Tofu, every time the Force Bomb has come out, you see him jump off to the ledge, get a great setup, have the charge, and then send an Aura Sphere. And Azir has fallen for it over and over again. Again, you were so correct, Psyduck. Just this constant... What the heck was that? That was interesting. But again, there it is. A quick stock coming out. Tofu says thank you very much. I'll take two, sitting at 150 and above. Even the down throw that can't finish it off. Azir is looking at a very, very tough potential final game.
169% on Tofu right now. Final stock for the Samus. Sitting at 0, but as soon as Tofu touches him once, there it goes. 19% and the cutscene coming at 180% now on a Lucario, which is something that a Smash player thinks about in their nightmares. But 61% and climbing on the Samus. If I'm Azure, I'm sweating. I'm not gonna lie.
If this is gonna be another 3-0, this is gonna be a very, very painful showing here. Once again, Tofu really putting up. There it is, though. Azir able to fire back, at least with one stock. Looking for, hopefully, another. However, the up throw into the up air is going to keep Azir off the stage and immediately in Tofu's palm.
So Azure does have that one stock now. That's good. And really the key, more than just the stock, I think your reward when you're playing against Lucario in this kind of a situation is just that you don't have to deal with that much aura anymore, truthfully. Obviously the stock is nice, but I feel like if you're playing against Lucario in this situation and you could choose between either taking the stock or just getting rid of aura for the rest of the set, I think you would go with the latter, truthfully. Because that aura mechanic is just so strong, especially when it's paired with rage, and I just... Oh my, and that killed even with 57% on Tofu. The Force Bomb still kills.
Zach coming out strong and ahead here in a pure 3-0. You lose 1 or 2 stocks along the way. I think it was a grand total of 3 stocks that were lost across the entire set. A phenomenal showing here, really showing why they're currently undefeated, going back to the records currently. That will put Zach at a 4-0 in their current standings. And fortunately for Azir, for Stefan, that'll be a fall to 3-2. Still very workable, by the way. Still very, very workable in the current stance. Just going to be a mite more difficult to secure that final playoff spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, hats off to Zach, Tofu. It's not easy to 3-0 anyone with Lucario in this game. Far from a bad character, but certainly not at the top tier level like Lucina or Pikachu. Those characters, you know, if that's a 3-0, it's like, yeah, well, you know, it's Joker, it's Pikachu, it's Lucina, you know, those really, really crazy ones. But really, I definitely have to pay respect whenever you see a good Lucario. I mean, it's really a sight to behold, and I think we had a really incredible showing there. If I'm Stefan here, I think I'm starting to work a little more on the Samus, truthfully.
Mm.
Byleth is I think Byleth is really, really strong in the right hands, but those hands have to be pretty much working exclusively on Byleth because
Yeah.
their move set is just so strange. It's so unique. It's almost like Game and Watch, but like a heavier, more Fire Emblem version. It's just very, very strange. And is one of those characters that is difficult to manage in a pool without dedicating a lot of time. If you put more hours into something like Samus, you've got a little more translation, I think, with the floatier type characters, maybe even the young Link, because then you've got Toon, you've got adult variants of Link as well. So I guess if I were Stefan, I would either go all in on the Byleth or work on broadening the pool a little bit with things that translate a little better.
Of course, it's always the constant thought of, what's better for the competitive, for your own competitive mental. It's, do you specialize or do you expand? And that'll be a question that Stefan has to come to terms with coming up here in the next few weeks. Of course, we'll only have to wait and see. Hopefully, we're going to see him in playoffs and really what they've grown to be with. But of course, we are going to have, hopefully, an interview with Zach themselves, the 3-0 Lucario Master, here in just a little bit. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here with Esports U and some more Super Smash Bros. Ultimate action. And welcome back, everyone. We are ready to go with an interview with Zach, the player that ran the 3-0 for FSCC, and again, keeping an undefeated win record, which, as we were saying, is somewhat difficult to do on that Lucario, but either way, makes it work, and in stylish fashion as well. Tofu, how you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing pretty good.
All right, so Tofu, I have to ask, what made you pick Lucario? Just to main anyone, why Lucario? I'm no
Well,
hate. I think Lucario is really, really cool. I'm just curious.
it all started in Brawl. As soon as I unlocked Lucario, I had just seen the Lucario movie, and he was my favorite Pokemon at the time, so I picked him up. I've been maining him ever since. I can't drop him, no matter how much frustration he brings me.
I totally understand. As a reformed Smash 4 Roy and current Little Mac main, I understand. Been there. I respect the struggle, solidarity. But tell me about the matchup with Byleth. I know you played against Byleth twice this set. How does Lucario feel in that matchup?
Well, Lucario doesn't like to fight Byleth. He doesn't like to fight Corrin either. Just the long range kill moves that they have can really mess with Lucario's flow. But personally, I don't have a problem with it. Byleth and Corrin, in order to get those long range kill moves off, they need to be patient and they need to find their opponent messing up. And I found that I can out patience my opponent 9 times out of 10.
That's really awesome to hear. And one final question for you. When you saw the change from Byleth to Samus, how did you feel? Did you think, oh, this is going to get easier? Or did you think, oh, man, this might be problematic?
It. I was thinking, okay, if he just wants to shoot projectiles at me, I win. If he wants to rush in and back air me, it's going to be a little bit difficult. And that's kind of what he did. He was using his buttons really well. Samus has an incredibly good neutral air and back air, and it contests Lucario's airspace better than nearly anybody in the game.
Yeah. It's such a very, very powerful thing, especially if utilized well. And it so far seems that you have done that, Zach. So very, very nice. Congratulations there. At current standings, you are sitting at a 4-0. You have yet to play, I believe, one of your matches, kind of rounding things out here. So my question to you, looking forward into the rest of the season, is there anyone that you're very, very excited to play against, or anyone that you're looking forward to playing up inside of your group?
Hmm. Nah, I don't really recognize any of the names, but I'm looking to
Just
forward.
kind of there.
I'm looking forward to playing anyways.
Of course, and with Lucario by your side, it should be a very entertaining time. Again, Tofu,
Hmm.
thank you so much for the interview and congratulations on the victory.
Thank you.
Of course, that'll mean that we are done with series number 1, but don't worry, there's plenty more action to come as our second series of the evening will be Trinity Valley Community College, NJCAAE, or Angie, of course, as they're known by, will be facing off against Community College of Beaver County, Vicente, or as they like to go by, Vic. So don't go anywhere, SSBU action. We'll be back here with Esports U in just a bit. And we are back, and as you can see, we're already underway, as the teams even said we don't want to wait for anyone. They are getting right underway, so for Trinity Valley, we do have Angie, and of course, Angie on the Dark Pit. Beaver County, though, is bringing out Vic, who is currently sitting on that Luigi main.
Is one of those characters you don't see super often. Both of the pits really considered probably the most honest characters in the game ever since Brawl. That's kind of what they've been known as. Very, very honest characters. What you get is really what you see. Not a whole lot of gimmicks. Versus Luigi, who is a living gimmick. So this will be fun. This will be fun.
Quite literally the embodiment of living gimmick. It's the character that had some of the most spammy situations, had some of the most unexpected situations that can occur. I love it so much. But of course, here in the neutral game, it does seem that Angie is getting a little bit of the better scenarios. However, we do have an unfortunate connection that has forced us to sit here and look at the screen. So I think that might be a little bit of rough time. We do apologize for that, but we'll go back to our lovely faces to get an idea, because we did get a very small glimpse of what we hope to see a little bit more into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, we did not get to see the most important part of any Luigi set, which is 0% to 0%. Anyone who's played against Luigi knows that if you're at 0%, you should be scared. Because if you get grabbed one time at 0%, you are counting on Luigi to make a mistake and nothing else. Because everyone knows that if you're at 0, Luigi grabs you, there's a pretty good chance that that stock is just gone. So the key to victory against Luigi is take a little bit of percent, but not from a grab. That's the key to victory.
And it's worked so far, right? Angie honestly did have some good, I want to say pressure is the best way to put it. It was being able to space out where you were putting your opportunities. A really nice use of the neutral Bs, which is, I would say, a prime example of how to use Pit. It's to give spacing, it's to disrupt a lot of those combinations. As you were saying, the 0 to death is by far the most annoying part of it all, so you don't want to allow that to happen. Of all characters, I would give Pit one of the better opportunities for that. That arrow is... I'm so frustrated. As you are a Little Mac main, as you have explained, I'm also a Little Mac main, and I cry every time I face anyone with any projectiles because it is pain. So far, we did see some good stuff coming out. However, we were seeing, going back to back, of course, Vic really putting down the pressure at the end. We saw some of those combinations start to come out right before we did cut to a break. So it does give me hope that Vic is very much a Luigi main and knows how to deal with those situations.
Absolutely. But like I was saying, I do want to see how Vic plays the 0%. I didn't. You listen. You laugh. But I know a lot of Luigi mains, and they, it's like the litmus test in the Luigi main subreddit. It's how many times have you gotten a zero to death grab? But
only one newbie.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing, dude. Nothing. You can't do it in your sleep. You're not a Luigi main. You can't store your misfires for when you need them. You're not a Luigi main. But in all seriousness, once you get out of that 0%, because there's a lot more to the character than that. That's what he's most known for, but there's more to him than that. I think in Smash Ultimate, one of the biggest differences between playing him in 4 and Ultimate was the way that Luigi uses Cyclone. His down B. In Smash 4, it was just this really, really good all-around move. You could use it as a combo breaker, you could use it as a combo ender, you could use it as a recovery move, and it had a little bit of everything. This game, they kind of leaned more into making it a defensive option, less of a recovery tool. I know some people I know who are Luigi mains here in the Tampa scene where I'm from, had a hard time adapting to the way the Cyclone was changed when Ultimate was first released. Obviously, we're a few years into the life cycle now, and I'm really, really excited to see how a true Luigi main not only gets through that 0%, but uses the Cyclone in that new way that they're sort of reimagining it.
Yeah, it's a new tech, right? It's how do you use some of these old styles and these old combinations to bring it to new heights, and that's really at the bottom line. I think of most fighting games is outside of your MOBAs or your FPS games where there's always a plethora of changes coming in. Fighting games do tend to stay pretty standard. Once a change has been made, you're not going to see a drastic change. It's not all of a sudden you're going to get a raise of how high that cyclone goes. So players have to adapt and seeing, as you said, how well you can adapt and how cleanly you can execute that stance. It's really really going to be telling. Of course, we've been lying on that Luigi for a while, but I want to talk about the other combinations that can potentially come out because we did see that Dark Pit. Of course, in the back pocket, Angie has also stated that they are able to take that regular pit as well. But the other one that follows suit is actually Palutena, which is one that a lot of players like to have in their pocket. Great character to have if you can master her. What do you think of that kind of character pool there? The fighter pool does seem to encompass a wide range of opportunities and situations.
Honestly, if I'm Angie here, as much as it pains me to say it, I'm pulling out the Palutena. Um, if you have a Palutena in your pool, and the other characters in your pool are, like mid tier, not bad characters by any stretch of the imagination. Pit is not a bad character. Dark Pit as well. They're not bad at all. Solid choices. You can go pretty far with them. But Palutena, I think, has that same level or maybe slightly less. I don't think anyone has as much of a gimmick as Luigi, but has slightly less, but still a pretty considerable gimmick ceiling, if we will, with
Mhm.
the Nair plane, with just the back air, just using the shield to block projectiles, which would be good against fireballs in neutral. And overall, I feel like her neutral is just a little better against
Mhm.
Luigi because the pits, yeah, they can use um, the bows. I think if we saw Dark Pit first, that would be the silver arrows,
Mhm.
which are really solid in neutral, really good for off stage as well. Luigi is one of those characters who off stage really relies on his double jump. His up B is not that great. If you don't get a misfire off of green missile, it's okay, not terrible, but not the best recovery
Mhm.
move. So if you switch to something like Palutena, you switch to something like Pit, something that has a projectile that you can easily move off stage, I think you're going to have a much better time fighting Luigi. So Palutena will give that to you with her homing attack. Um, Hit will give that to you with his regular bow that doesn't have the silver bolts in it. Much more control over the arrows off stage. So if I'm Angie, like I said, I'm going Palutena. If you want to stick with a pit, truthfully, I think regular pit is going to be better in this matchup than dark pit.
And of course, we have gotten an update on game number one as well, and we might see that swap to Palutena right now because Vic went ahead and took a three stock. So that was a very, very nice game from that Luigi main. And if we do see the Palutena coming out, that'll put it into a nice scenario where we get to see that change up, right? As much as you were saying, even maybe even seeing that regular pit come out on the back end in most situations, character swap is what we are calling for Angie. We'll see if Angie thinks the same thing, but a 3-0 by the Gimmick Master does lend me to believe that no matter what Angie does bring out, Vic has a fair handle on how to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like we saw in the previous matchup with a Lucario main, a dedicated Lucario main, one of the advantages of being, as you said before, a specialist is that you know everything there is to know about this character. You know that character on a far more intimate level than someone who has a pool ever will know any of those characters because you live, breathe, and die that character. In this case, we have Luigi, a character who has honestly a lot of depth. There's a lot that you can learn about Luigi. There's a lot of things to know. Just really weird little hidden tech, like how his down taunt spikes for some reason. Just like really ranging from the goofy stuff to the throw combos. He has a lot of depth, a lot of complexity. When you have characters like that, a specialist piloting them into matchups that aren't that bad for them, truthfully, it goes from maybe like slightly favorable, maybe slightly unfavorable to either pretty favorable or even at worst, just because of how well they know the character and how well they know their weaknesses, but more importantly, how to get around them. But we just got word they are going to get a Palutena swap. That could be problematic for Luigi. But
Mhm.
if there's anyone that can get around it, it's this Luigi. That's all I'm saying.
I would be much in line to also agree with that. Of course, the question is, how is Angie going to play it when you get 3-0? That does somewhat, I want to say, lend itself to a little bit of a mental block as well. When you get 3-0'd, it feels very difficult to overcome, and that is something that I'm also interested in. I love the mental talks that a lot of these players go through and how you overcome it, because that's also, I want to say, almost a 30 to 40% of the game. It's 50 to 60% your skill, but how do you bring yourself back up in the mental game? How do you get over that barrier of, man, this sucks, I'm outclassed, to I still have a chance to win this? We'll see it right here as we go right back to the same stage. It is Pokemon Stadium once again.
We love Pokemon Stadium on this stream. And it looks like we've got almost a 0 to death. The super jump punch just barely not killing. And Angie really going to be testing her mettle here. Like you say, the mental is so important, but that's got to be a blow to the mental. Another super jump punch kill from Luigi, this time in the air. That's a tough hitbox to hit.
It is, and I mean, Vic making it look easy is something that worries me. And here we go. This is almost looking like the infinite combo. Not going to land just yet, but enough to distract Angie from getting anything else off. The neutral airs are going to be their best friend, I do believe, at the current stage, but it's so far very difficult. So far, Vic has done an immaculate job of controlling these neutrals.
Yeah, and you can just see the Poltergust getting used. There it is again. You have a mixture of the Poltergust, you have fireballs coming out. Luigi just has a deceptive amount of zoning that he can just finish off with these throw combos into that super jump punch. And he's just one of those characters that'll steal a stock before you even realize you have it. And there
Just
it is,
like
the
that,
Cyclone.
that's the tornado. As you were saying, used very well, and then the back air to finish it off.
This Luigi is on another level. I would love to see this Luigi fight that Lucario to see who's the best specialist in the group, but Luigi is on a roll right now, and honestly, if I'm Palutena, I am struggling to figure out what I'm supposed to do here. I think really her best bet is just to stay away from him as much as possible. He's got better frame data, he's got better gimmicks, his throw game is much better. You've got to beat him off stage. That's your only hope to take this game.
Well, you can see it there. Nice light wall going up there. Angie getting a little bit of damage, but still at this point, the rage is completed, as that'll be putting Angie at 101. It is going to be Vic throwing it right back and really keeping steady here. But again, 3 stocks in, or 2 stocks in for Angie, and still none taken off of Vic's bar there. It's going to continue. Great little ball of fire by Angie, but it's not going to be a killing blow. And it will be Vic still dancing to try and get another 3-0 game off.
We're going to need to see a lot more back airs, a lot more neutral airs from Palutena if we're going to get a stock here. That just needs to happen. The Explosive Flame is good. It's a really good zoning tool. It's a good way to wall your opponent out, but it's not a kill move the same way that her aerials are, just like that down air getting used, the Sour Spot, winning clutch for Angie.
There's going to be a chance, but this also means that Vic is fully unleashed now. You're not worried about losing a great little Poltergust. That's going to be used to keep Angie from getting a perfect recovery off. Still at 150, a single blow. Anything could be the finisher, and even the tornado flipping Angie straight through the air. Going to give a chance to kind of recover here, but I mean, Vic's just waiting. Vic wants to finish it right here.
There it is.
Oh, you went for it! You went for it! That is rude!
Vic, you animal. Why? You're crazy. Stop this man. Mario. Oh, Mario. His brother's acting up.
Oh man, it was an attempt, but it will be the tornado that still picks it up. Vic showing off a bit of style there. Maybe it was if it had landed, that would have been very entertaining, but it did not. So I love it. Vic with the plank at the very end. Luigi even saying, let's get in on that fun. 2-0 so far for the CCBC side, and we'll see if it continues throughout the rest.
See, Angie there's something to be said for her here. She did make some adaptations, did end up taking stock, which against a Luigi of this caliber is no small feat, as we can see. Um, like I said, I do think she needs to do a better job of keeping Luigi away from her. His frame data is significantly better than Palutena because he doesn't have a weapon. So he's really, really quick, especially with the Poltergust combos. I mean, you can go from 0 to literally dead in a matter of 5 seconds with this character. He's extremely explosive. Um, you really just got to keep him off stage, though. You keep him on stage, he's just gonna run you over, as we've seen. And she just didn't see enough off stage. It's sad because off stage games with Luigi are always so crazy because of his side B and the cycle. He's so goofy. A lot of crazy potential with Luigi off stage, but that is where Palutena is going to win this match. Is in the air.
And so far, we did see it, actually. So when Angie was going in for those areas, the neutral areas especially, utilized to very great effect. You could see it. The covering of the combat there was on point, but that was about it, right? And as you said, going for those aerial battles is something that we do want to watch. Of course, the problem is a lot of those hit registries that we were seeing was great kind of setups from Vic, right? Multiple times whenever we saw those big hits come out from the aerials, it was back towards the inner part of the stage, correctly identifying where those hits were going to go, ensuring that you weren't going to be kicked off stage, or else that 150% would have been closer to probably a 110, 120, and it would have been next stock into the round. So have to give huge props to Vic for not getting caught in those scenarios, making sure that those scenarios were not going to come around, and even if they were close to it, it was always converted. Now, following up here, there is a potential for another character swap once again. Remember, for Angie, it was Dark Pit, Pit, and Palutena. At this point, the Dark Pit and Palutena have not worked as well. Maybe that Pit comes out, that last-ditch effort.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely possible. If I'm Angie, I think I would switch to the pit here. Just try to go for some neutral B kills off stage. But more than anything else, if you're going to continue to stay competitive in this set, you need to stop relying on stray hits and start putting some strings together. I think that's one of the big differences we've seen between the players who play with a pool versus specialists. Specialists can put all their time into perfecting strings on that character so they know them super, super well. We are going to see the Dark Pit come back out once again. That is a surprising choice. I'm not going to lie, though. I'm supposing that the Dark Pit is a little more of a comfort pick.
The question, of course, going straight back to Pokemon Stadium, I gotta ask at this point as well, since we haven't really touched on it, do you think the stage has also played a little bit of factor, these upper ledges giving an opportunity for Vic to kind of break the cycle or break the flow of these matches? I mean, would you have preferred to see a stage swap?
I would go with something without these platforms here that Luigi can land on and extend those combos past the 0% combos. Maybe go for something flatter. Maybe go for something like a Smashville. And that's gonna kill off the top that early. Luigi taking an early stock. But PS2, I think when you give Luigi those platforms, even though they're not the highest platforms in the game, you just give him more combo options, and that's just not something you can afford to do.
Oh, and even though the combo dropped, you can see Angie struggling to try and get a punish down. So far, a lot of the mistakes, even though they're minor in nature from Vic, has not been punished, and that's just the power that you bring when you are on fire at this point. Even the movements from Vic have actually ramped up to the nth degree. They were not this fast originally in, I want to say, games 1 and 2. So far, really putting on the schmooze.
Well, that was a good use of the Guardian Orbitars there. A move that you don't see a lot of pit players use as often as I think they should, but the back air is going to take that pit stock.
Last stock chance. You've taken one stock so far here in the series. Let's see if you can do it again, Angie. That will be considered the slow start to a better game here. Arrows coming out once again, just trying to keep the space like we were talking about. Just trying to rack up that damage percentile. So far, though, at this point, it is Vic finally finding the roll in attempt and immediately back on the fight. You can see Angie really saying this is kind of our bread and butter.
See, what I love from Vic, though, is the patience, right? Not running in, not taking the bait, getting too aggressive and getting punished, playing the patient game, knowing you got that 2 stock lead. The percentage is rising, but that's fine. Your opponent's still low percent. One good poltergust, sayonara. It's over. You know?
All it takes is one. All it takes is
All it takes
one.
is one.
And unfortunately, we did have a small connection drop, but at this point, we are just going to wait and see exactly what that score is going to come out to. Of course, if we do get to see Angie take that game and try and look for a reverse sweep, that'll be something that'll be very interesting. But Vic so far has looked on point, even with the combinations all the way through. We were sitting, I think, with one more stock in there, so we'll wait for the final moments here. Either way, both players I think have played with quite a bit of heart here, even with the changes, Angie coming out here. Vic so far, though, currently sitting at second in the standings in their group, I believe 18 is what I saw. I think we know that he deserves to be there.
Absolutely. I don't think there's any question about that. But before we get into talking more about Vic, I do want to acknowledge something from Angie because I've been in that spot before where it just feels like the enemy is just running all over you and it's hard to figure out what you're doing. Angie made a really, really good adjustment on that last stock, playing back a little more, playing that patient projectile base game, and just looking for the bait and punish. I think if she takes that sort of mindset into her next set, you got a pretty good shot of winning. When you play someone like Pitt, you have to play that way. You've got to play, just wall them out a little bit, find your opening and take it. That's what you got to do. You can't afford to run in and be crazy like some of the other more brawling type characters like Luigi, maybe like Kazuya, Ryu, the characters that can get in and just combo real quick. Hit us to play a little more of a koi style, and I think she was really starting to find that on that last stock.
Maybe it was just the warm up, right? Trying to get online a little bit faster. Especially playing against someone like Vic, it's very difficult to find your own tempo. So I have to agree, being able to find those opportunities and slowly building up your own style, that will help you out in the future. And that's unfortunately where it's going to go, as we have gotten word that Vic has taken the 3-0 sweep here in the series. And that means that they will go ahead and move up to, I believe, a 5-0 record currently in the standings. Still sitting at second place, I believe just below one of their fellow members, but that'll be something else to take a look at. And for Angie, looking into the future, as you said, potentially looking at playoffs to get some revenge on Vic and look to put themselves in a better spot, especially with their fighter pool here. Maybe look to maybe slim it down or just continue working on those fundamentals, one or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've got plenty to work on at this point, as everyone in any competition does. But I think in this case, you've got your work cut out for you. She got a little bit of a hint towards the end, kind of started to see, okay, I think this might be the way to play it a little bit better. So I think the light bulb is starting to turn on a little bit just in time for those playoffs, which is a good thing. But I
Mm-hmm.
think you just keep working on that zoning game, working on the baiting and the punishing game. I think you'll be all right. Otherwise, you've got a pretty solid foundation. But just take those lessons and run with them. I think you'll be fine.
Of course, and I can't wait to see again. Still sitting at a very respectable 3-2 score is going to help out Angie in securing potentially one of those playoff spots, and only time will tell as we do continue on forward. Of course, that will not be all, as there will be more action to come later on as well. I do believe Esports U is having even more phenomenal games to come afterwards, but we are not done with the SSBU action, as we do have an interview with Vic to get a good glimpse into this Luigi main's mind and what more is to potentially come, maybe if there's some secret picks. Either way, don't go anywhere. Esports U will be right back. And welcome back. Welcome back here. We are set for the interview with Vic, the winner and 3-0 specialist here from CCBC. Congratulations to him on that win. And of course, we do have him here right now. Vic, how you feeling after that victory?
I feel pretty good. I feel confident after that win. I feel like I played very well today.
Well, Vic, I do have a question for you. Luigi, and it's a character that typically, if you play, is usually all you play. It's not a character that I've ever seen in anyone's pool. It's usually like a dedicated main. And it seems like you consider yourself a dedicated main. What drew you to the character?
Well, that's a long question, but I'll try to summarize it as much as possible. So I first started in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and I played as Luigi, and I really liked his up special. So that drew me into the character itself and a Cyclone, of course. Then in Smash 4, I actually played Kirby, but then I switched back to Luigi, discovering how good he was in 4. Now in Ultimate, what really appealed to me was how good his combo game was and how explosive and fun his combos seemed to be to perform, especially his zero to death. Like getting zero to deaths are fun, but I also like his other combos as well. So it's mainly just his combo game and Ultimate attracted me to him basically.
Gotcha. He does have a very, very explosive combo game. Anyone who's ever been on the R Luigi Main subreddit is just clip after clip of crazy, crazy combos that you can pull off with that character. I'm sure you've got some on there yourself, judging by the way you play him. So with Luigi going into Dark Pit, tell me about that matchup. Were you nervous about that matchup, or is that a matchup you don't mind?
Well, it's not a matchup I have particularly too much good experience in, but I noticed that they were trying to camp out with arrows, so I just mixed up my landings a little bit as much as possible. The whole goal of it was to obviously get through their arrows and get the grab or get a combo in them as well. It's not a matchup I really know too well. Like on the first match, I was nervous and I didn't know what to do, but over time I got more confident and I felt better about the way I was playing in general.
So we obviously saw the Dark Pit, but we also saw Palutena Game 2. Palutena is a little more meta, a little more popular than Pit or Dark Pit. So tell me about your experience with the Palutena matchup. Historically, has that been one you struggle with, or is that one that you find pretty easy?
I would usually say that Apolitana, it would usually is a matchup I don't really like do that well against. It's like a slight loss in my opinion because she has a lot of tools that can actually counter Luigi's stuff. First of all, her back air has invincibility. Her dash attack also does, and her neutral air is incredible. Her airspeed is good. Palutena is just a really good character in Smash in general in this game. So it's just not really a matchup that's the easiest for Luigi to deal with. She's also really difficult to hit as well, and also, as a consequence, difficult to combo. So I would say that this would be a matchup that I tend to struggle with more than average.
Definitely showed up though, and of course proved your worth here. Really showed off that no matter any sort of hardships that stand in front of you with those characters, you always come out on top. Now, taking a look here, Vic, again, you are looking like one of the undefeatables coming in here and looking to be one of the shoe-ins for the playoffs, so that is an awesome thing to have. Is there anyone that you do want to shout out here for your time here in the Esports U divisions, or anyone that you kind of want to give a nice little shout out to?
I'll give a shout out to two people. Shout out to CCBC and shout out to the Luigi Discord.
I like it. I like it. The two spots, of course, that are giving you that good information, of course. Vic, congratulations on the 3-0 tonight, and congratulations on your undefeated record so far.
Thank you.
With that, of course, we will be closing out the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate section of this broadcast, but there's more to be had here, as coming up next will be the Rocket League division. Of course, that'll be hosted by Bass from the Past and Pyro J, but we'll be taking a look at King University versus Husan University, as both teams are currently sitting 2-4 in their division and are currently playing for their playoff lives. Whoever loses here, I believe, will not have a chance at advancing. It is do it all or do nothing at all. So make sure to tune in for that. We'll go ahead to go to a very short break and be back in just a few.